Welcome back. This is part 3. We're talking about section 5 as we have it in today's Latter-day Saint scripture. And a little trivia here. This is the earliest possible scrap of paper that we have that is called a revelation from Joseph Smith. So all the other stuff has sort of gone the wayside. But this is kind of the OGest version that we can get. This predates the Revelation Book 1 version that we have. So most of the sections that we have, are kind of the earliest versions of it is in Revelation Book 1. And I correct myself because section 5 is actually missing from Revelation Book 1. So, but this document has been carbon dated to, or I'm making that word up. I'm sorry, just anecdotally, but dated to actually be a predecessor to Revelation Book 1. So it's the earliest one that we have. And it is found in what is called the Newell K. Whitney Papers. So according to the source note for this, which is actually in Documents, Volume 1. So we're getting into the documents now. And that's what the Documents series is about in the Joseph Smith Papers, is any other scrap of paper that doesn't fall into these volumes or books or histories or whatever, journals. That's what we get. So we get a lot from this. And again, big thank you to the editors of the Joseph Smith Papers for doing this for us. But this is what they say. This document is part of a collection of revelations found within the Newell K. Whitney Papers, which comprise 3 different groups of material. Early Mormon material, largely relating to the finances of the church. Super exciting. Newell K. Whitney personal papers and Whitney family papers. The Whitney papers include 19 manuscript revelations. The dates of the majority of the revelations indicate that Whitney, likely in his role as bishop of the church, received and retained copies of revelations from mid-1831 through late 1833. And if you recall, the Book of Commandments was published in 1833. So that's a little bit about the paper. This document is in Oliver Cowdery's handwriting, which is kind of fun. And continued on that source note, and just to kind of show, again, I'm kind of bragging. I don't know a lot of these people. I know a few of them, but I'm kind of bragging about the lengths and the science and the forensics that they went into to verify these documents. They deserve a lot of praise for this. So we get this. All extant versions of this revelation that bear a date have it as March 1829. Although the featured version gives no explicit date of creation, this is what I love. Oliver Cowdery's handwriting provides a clue to the dating. This document appears to provide one of only 2 known samples of Cowdery's early stylized or formalized handwriting. The other is a 6th of April 1829 agreement between Joseph Smith and his father-in-law Isaac Hale. And by the way, that was to buy a farm. Once Cowdery again began dictation from Joseph Smith of the Book of Mormon translation, his handwriting evolved into the style that characterized his handwriting for the remainder of his life. If, as the similarities of handwriting style would suggest, this copy of the revelation was created around the same time as the above-mentioned agreement, the document would have been created circa April 1829. This creation date would make this the earliest extant version of any revelation text dictated by Joseph Smith. So the forensics of the style of this guy's handwriting, that is how deep they have gotten into this. And I believe that I would probably make a shout out specifically to Royal Skousen, who has done, I believe it's called the critical approach to the manuscript of the original Book of Mormon manuscript and the printer's manuscript of the Book of Mormon. So he is one of the main editors for a lot of the Book of Mormon manuscript stuff that we have. So again, the publisher's edition, or what am I saying here? The original manuscript as well as the printer's manuscript, publisher's manuscript, whatever you want to call it. He was a main instrumental figure in that. So I believe that his expertise probably added to this a lot, is my guess. I don't know the guy, but I definitely admire him. So anyway, a little about the actual paper itself that we have. Introduction to the circumstances of it. All right. So again, draft 2 is very vague. It just says that Joseph received a revelation from Martin Harris, just to put it briefly. Again, you can read that in draft 2. You can read that in History of the Church, Volume 1, if you want to get nuts. The historical introduction, again, that we get, so thank you, editors, is that Joseph Smith had last seen Martin Harris in the summer of 1828, when he traveled to New York and found that Harris had lost the portion of the translation, later referred to as the Book of Lehi. Joseph Smith returned to Harmony disheartened and without Harris, his scribe. He did not go immediately to translating, but went to laboring on the small farm he had purchased from his father-in-law, Isaac Hale. That's where that agreement comes from that Oliver Cowdery scribed. There is no indication that Joseph Smith and Harris meet again until March of 1829. So summer of 1828 to March of 1829. That's a long absence. And that's only because Harris traveled to Harmony to see him. So yeah, this is Oliver Cowdery's handwriting and the signatures of Isaac Hale and Joseph Smith. So that's the farm. Lucy Harris starts getting into some stuff. So to kind of explain, it says in this revelation, Martin Harris, because you desire a witness. Well, what is he talking about? Well, again, we get some stuff about Lucy Harris again here. And this is, again, from an introduction here. According to Lucy Mack Smith, Harris's wife, also named Lucy, played a central role in generating this opposition to Joseph Smith's work. She, quote, mounted her horse and flew through the neighborhood like a dark spirit from house to house, making diligent inquiry at every house for miles where she had the least hope of gleaning anything that would subserve her purpose. This is from Lucy Mack Smith's history. Again, I don't think Lucy Mack was a fan. Anyway, Lucy Harris sought to prove that Joseph Smith had pretended to have gold plates, quote, for the express purpose of obtaining money from those who might be so incredulous as to believe him, and entered a complaint before a magistrate at Lyons, which is in New York State. It was in the midst of these difficulties that Harris traveled to Harmony to see Joseph Smith. According to the Revelations heading in the 1833 Book of Commandments, quote, Martin desired of the Lord to know whether Joseph had in his possession the record of the Nephites, unquote. Emma Smith's father, Isaac Hale, reported that Harris hoped to gain a greater witness of the plates. So in this revelation, we hear about three witnesses. Basically, the Lord says to him, like, look, I'm going to do it my way. And my way is that you're going to have three witnesses. And that's what we do have. We have a three witnesses page published in every single Book of Mormon back to 1830. We also have a testimony of 8 witnesses. But in this revelation, he's talking about by the mouth of 2 or 3, that goes back to, the Old Testament. And there's these potential lawsuits. So Martin also hears, so the revelation also warned that Joseph Smith, that, quote, there were many that lie in wait to destroy thee, perhaps an allusion to those preparing a lawsuit against Joseph Smith, and declared that the sword of justice hung above the people of that generation, and that if they would persist in the hardness of their hearts, the time cometh that it must soon fall upon them. The revelation asserted that the book's authenticity would be evidenced primarily by its message, not by the plates. If the people would not believe the translation, they would not believe even if Joseph Smith, quote, would show them all things. Again, that's from the historical introduction. So many thanks to those who put that together. A footnote to this is Martin Harris later stated that a man named Rogers accompanied him on the journey to Harmony. Unknown to Harris at the time, Rogers had plotted with Martin's wife, Lucy Harris, that he would cut off the covering of the plates with his knife when Joseph Smith displayed them. No other known sources mentions this scheme or provides evidence that Rogers followed through with it. Rogers cannot be positively identified. There was a Joseph Rogers living near Manchester in Phelpstown who later gave a negative account about the Smiths and claimed to have affidavits demonstrating that they were thieves. So the editors of the Joseph Smith papers did look into this, and I love that the title of the book that they found was called Naked Truths About Mormonism. So there's a naked truth for you. Apparently there was some guy who was actually plotting, like Lucy Harris would not let this thing go. Actually, apparently paid a guy or hired a guy to like go down there with a knife and do whatever he could to get those plates out of Joseph's hands. There you go. Lucy Mack, from her history, talks about this trial. that this when they say you're seeking a greater witness, and there was people like actually they had witnesses and everything. So according to, again, Lucy Mack Smith's history, according to hers, she says, quote, "I will now relate the proceedings of the court. After the setting of the same, the witness were sworn in. The first witness testified that Joseph Smith told him that the box which he had contained nothing but sand, and he only said it was gold plates to deceive the people. Second witness swore that Joseph Smith told upon a certain occasion that it was nothing but a box of lead, and he was determined to use it as he saw fit. Third witness declared under oath that he inquired of Joseph Smith what he had in that box, and Joseph said to him that there was nothing in the box, saying, I've made fools of the whole of you, and all I want is to get Martin Harris's money away from him. Witness also stated that Joseph had already got $200 or $300 from Martin by his persuasion. Now, the only thing that we ever know about is the $50 that Martin gave him and Emma when they moved. But anyway, so those are your three conflicting accounts, quite frankly. But that's, again, according to Lucy Mack Smith's history. So giving it that. On the stage back home, and this actually comes from, and just to let you know, again, how much work was put into the Joseph Smith papers. This comes from a microfilm from the State Historical Society of Wisconsin. How random. I mean, how did you find this? Anyway, well done. Find this, basically, as Martin's coming back from receiving this revelation. We get this, quote, William S. Sayer, I believe I'm saying that right, a fellow traveler with Harris on the stagecoach back to Palmyra, recalled that one of the other passengers, quote, did not believe that Joe was capable of composing anything, but that Joe's father was a man of some education and cunning and shrewd, and was duping others through Joe, that they were cheating Harris out of his money. Harris, however, told his fellow passengers that Joseph Smith, quote, had found the gold Bible and stone in which he looked, and was thereby enabled to translate the very ancient characters. So Martin Harris sticking to his guns. Some further insights that we get after the revelation is given. This, again, is from the historical introduction. Isaac Hale reported that he saw Joseph Smith and Harris comparing two manuscript copies of this revelation shortly after it was dictated. Although it is unknown what happened to those copies, this text is the earliest extant copy of any of Joseph Smith's translations, or revelations, excuse me. Oliver Cowdery possibly created it in April 1829, copying from an earlier manuscript. Another early version of this revelation was copied into Revelation Book 1, but the pages that contained it are missing from Revelation Book 1. The editors of the 1833 Book of Commandments used Revelation Book 1 as their source, but it is unknown what editing to this revelation was done prior to its publication. The differences between the text featured here and the version of the Book of Commandments demonstrate that Revelation Book 1 may not consistently represent the earliest text of Joseph Smith's revelations. A little, again, kind of forensic research there. I find it very interesting that Isaac Hale is kind of part of this revelatory process because, as has been stated, he's not a fan of this. He did sell his a portion of a farmland to Joseph Smith, who farmed it. Apparently he was around. Reuben Hale is helping with translation. So it's not just like, oh, I hate you, go away, you took my daughter. No, to me, this is a very understandable story of, it's family, you live together, you make it work. And I find it interesting that Isaac Hale actually saw like revelations being sort of compared and contrasted and all that, so he was kind of involved in it. So I don't think we should be saying anything that the Hales were like evil people or something like that. They obviously seem to be doing what they should as a family. So I think that's notable as well. Anyway, so some about Revelation, or section 5 of Revelation from Joseph Smith, the very earliest one that we have. And I got a little bit more about Lucy Harris being really vehement about this. But again, I don't know if that's Lucy Mack writing things. Again, not going to get in the middle of this, even though it's 200 years old. So yeah, there you go. Section 5, a little insights, hopefully, filling in the history a bit from that section of the Doctrine and Covenants. The next we're going to go to is some of the fun and ridiculous things that they had to do to try to save these plates from being stolen by other people. A lot of this next part is going to be Lucy Mack's history. So stay tuned and join us for that. And we're going to get some fun little insights into how crazy people got about these gold plates.